So here again, we have our simple Hello World application using Express. But there's one problem with this. The issue here is that in our responses, we're just serving this static string every time. What we really want to do is send back an HTML page, but at the same time, we actually want to change the contents of that page programmatically. The way we can do this is using a template library. In order to use a template library, we need to construct templates. In this case, just one template for this particular route. So the first thing we'll do is make a directory for our templates or HTML pages. So I'm going to create the views directory. Then we'll create an HTML file for our template. And for this, let's just do hello name. Now, many of you probably have experience using template libraries. For those of you who don't, we'll see what this means in a bit. But basically, these two curly braces are syntax that the template engine understands. They essentially delimit a variable whose value we will pass in when we render an HTML page using this template. So now let's go back to our application and let's include our template engine. Now before we do that, we're going to include a library called Consolidate. Consolidate is basically a set of wrappers for a number of template engines for Express. The value Consolidate provides is that Express requires template libraries to have a certain interface, and Consolidate handles that for us. Now, in order to use our template engine in Express, we need to specify a couple of application settings in Express. So now that I've set up these application settings, let's walk through and understand what's happening here. So the first thing that's happening is that we're registering the Nunchuck's template engine as being associated with the HTML extension. Then here, we're saying set the view engine app setting to HTML, meaning that we're going to end up using this engine to render our HTML files. And then finally, we're specifying where our templates are located. And if you remember, we created this views directory and created our template within that directory. Now, __dir name is a variable provided by the Node.js environment. Essentially, this will allow us to access the full path to the directory in which this file, the file we're currently editing here, is stored. This allows us then to specify the full path to the views directory as the location for our views that will be used by Express when using the Nunchuck's template engine. All right, so now we've registered Nunchuck's, our template engine, with Express. And then we've told Express where to look for our HTML files. So now let's actually generate content using this template rather than just sending a static string back. To do that, instead of using send, we'll want to use the render method. And rather than passing a static string, we'll instead specify the template we want to use, and we'll give it an object in which we'll pass the value for that name variable in the template. In this case, as my object, I'm going to pass templates as the value for name. So what I'll expect to see as output is hello templates, given the way we've constructed our template here. So now let's see how this all works. Now we know we're missing Express and Consolidate now among our dependencies, so I'll just go ahead and install those. Now let's run our app. And we can see that our server starts up and is listening on port 3000. So let's access localhost at port 3000, and we can see that we actually forgot to install the dependency for Nunchucks. So let's go back to the app and do that. Kill the server and install Nunchucks. Okay, great. Let's launch the server again. And now, ta-da! You can see here that our output is what was expected. Let's quickly take a look at our template again. We're printing hello, and whatever was passed as the value of a name variable in the object used as part of the rendering process for this template. Looking here, we can see that to render, we're passing this object where we're specifying templates as the value for name. So render takes the name of the template file in the views directory that we want to render and an object with values for all variables used in that template. So just end to end for this application, Express allows us to define this route, to set up a template engine, as well as specify where Express can find our templates, and finally, render pages as part of the route handler for any given route.